All right, we're here with a special report on a massive shift that's happening right now, right under our feet. And this isn't some distant problem we can kick down the road. It's a demographic and economic tidal wave that is literally reshaping our world as we speak.
And look, this isn't just hyperbole. Headlines like this are popping up everywhere because they're capturing a very real sense of urgency. We have a system that was designed for a completely different time, and it's now facing a demographic reality it was never, ever built to handle. So let's break down what's actually going on.
Before we even get into why this is a crisis, we first have to get our heads around the sheer scale of this change. They call it the silver tsunami for a reason. And trust me, the numbers are pretty staggering. Okay, get this. 73 million. That's how many baby boomers there are in the United States. And by 2030, which is right around the corner, every single one of them will be 65 or older, the traditional retirement age. This isn't some gradual slope. It's a demographic cliff. And this isn't some future event. We are in the thick of it right now. This period has a name. They call it Peak 65 because 4.1 million Americans are turning 65 every single year. We are at the very crest of this massive wave.
Let's break that down even more. What that means is that every single day, more than 11,000 people in the U.S. hit retirement age. Every single day. Think about that constant, relentless flow and the pressure it puts on, well, everything, from the job market to our social safety nets.
So, you might be asking, how does a big demographic wave turn into a full-blown systemic problem? Well, it's because the retirement system we have today was designed for a world that just doesn't exist anymore. A world with different family sizes, different jobs, and frankly, people who didn't live as long. For generations, the picture of a secure retirement was this thing called the three-legged stool. The idea was simple. You had a pension from your employer, you had Social Security from the government, and you had your own personal savings. It was a pretty stable model, right? Well, today, each one of those legs is dangerously wobbly. Let's start with the first one.
So this is leg number one, what you get from your employer. Before the 1980s, a lot of workers had pensions. This meant the company took on all the financial risk. They invested the money, and they guaranteed you an income for life. Simple. But then the 401k came along, and it completely flipped the script. All the risk, market crashes, bad investment choices, you name it, it all moved from the company's shoulders directly onto yours. The safety net got replaced by a do-it-yourself system, where you are suddenly your own, often untrained financial manager. Now for leg number two, Social Security. This was created back in the 30s to be the ultimate safety net. But in the 80s, money from the trust fund got diverted for other government spending and was replaced with what are basically IOUs. Fast forward to 2010, and the system started paying out more than it was taking in. Now, the forecast is that by the mid-2030s, the reserves are just going to run dry. If no changes are made, that triggers an automatic overnight benefit cut of around 23%. That's a massive pay cut for millions of seniors who depend on it.
But look, this story isn't just about finances and retirement accounts. This retirement wave is sending a massive shockwave through the entire economy, and it's creating something people are calling the Great Labor Mismatch.
Just look at these numbers. In critical industries like utilities, nearly 17% of the entire workforce is about to retire. In skilled trades, a third of all workers are over 50. Healthcare, manufacturing, they're all facing this massive brain drain. We're not just losing workers, we're losing decades of experience and institutional knowledge. And the people who are supposed to mentor the next generation are walking out the door.
And this isn't happening evenly across the country, not by a long shot. Some states are feeling this crunch way harder than others. In places like Alabama and Minnesota, there are way more jobs open than there are people to fill them. We're talking as few as 65 available workers for every 100 open jobs. That's not just a tight labor market, that's a structural crisis.
So here's the bottom line for the whole country. The U.S. workforce is growing by just over 1 million people a year. But to keep up with economic demand and replace all the retiring boomers, we actually need more than 4 times that number. That massive gap is the engine driving worker shortages absolutely everywhere.
Okay, so we've seen the strain on the system and the shockwave hitting the economy. But what does all of this mean for the actual people at the heart of the story? Well, for a lot of them, the dream of retirement is colliding with a very, very harsh reality.
And this brings us to that third and final leg of the stool, personal savings. And honestly, this number is almost hard to wrap your head around. 45% of baby boomers have zero, nothing, saved for retirement. For almost half of an entire generation, that leg of the stool doesn't just wobble, it's not even there.
And when there are no savings and the other safety nets are frayed,
This is the direct, tragic consequence. Back in the 90s, older adults were a pretty small fraction of the homeless population. Today, they are nearly half. The basic promise that if you work your whole life, you'll at least have a roof over your head, well, that promise is broken.
So if you're watching this and you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, you're probably asking yourself, okay, what does this massive generational shift actually mean for me? And the short answer is just about everything.
Here are the new rules of the game. First, the idea that your employer will guarantee you a comfortable retirement, that's over. Done. Second, Social Security is absolutely going to be reformed, and that probably means some combination of higher taxes, a later retirement age, or lower benefits for us. That makes your personal savings the most important piece of the puzzle by far. But there is an upside here. Those huge labor shortages we talked about. They create massive opportunities and leverage for skilled workers in fields like the trades and healthcare. But finally, and this is so important, this isn't about blaming boomers or any other generation. This is a systemic problem created by decades of decisions that we all now have to figure out how to navigate.
At the end of the day, this all leaves us with one huge overarching question. The retirement of the baby boomers has basically exposed these deep, fundamental cracks in our economic foundation, and it forces us all to ask, are the systems we rely on every day built for the world we actually live in now, or are they built for a past that's gone for good?